Let's be really creepy today.
There's nothing creepier than watching us on YouTube struggle through trying to be creepy. This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost. And speak for yourself. I am great at being creepy. That's Corinne. I'm Sabrina.
Hello.
We're your ghostesses. We are going to journey you through some creepy stories today, and we will be your leaders through some terrifying tales. And we have a theme today.
Yes, we do.
And it's a creepy one. And we love it.
One that we keep coming back to year after year.
We can't stay away.
And they can't stay away from us.
No.
This is
because I love us.
Haunted toys. Creepy little objects and artifacts that are possessed or haunted and are nightmare inducing.
Yeah. And I love it.
Me too.
I
love
would
it.
Hate to experience it.
From afar.
Exactly. Love to talk about it. Love to commiserate in the horrors that you have experienced with these things. But then also, not all of it's negative. I will say, like, the one experience that I had with a haunted toy growing up was like the best thing in the world because, and I've told this story before, but I was having my sleepover in my basement and telling everyone about how my house was haunted. And people are like, no, it's not. And all of a sudden, on cue, like, my goodness, enter stage right, spotlight on you, ghost child. He started playing with my brother's firetruck and it sent everyone screaming.
Oh, so good. Were you screaming too, or were you proud of the ghost in that moment?
I definitely screamed.
Yeah. It would be hard not to, especially when the group around you is screaming.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then you're just like, okay, well, your body just reacts the same way.
I mean, I even feel like when we're recording and like you have a reaction to something, I have a reaction too. And I don't even know what you're reacting to, but I scream because you scream and vice versa.
I'm like, I just look off in the distance. You're like, what? What? And I'm like, I'm watching a bird outside my window. Like, nothing. We're fine. Okay. Do you want to start?
Okay. No particular order, but I'm going to start with called Help. I'm currently being haunted.
Oh, I don't know how much we can help.
This is from M. Hello. I have a spooky story about my haunted house. It's all very true and pretty scary, but I love you guys. And this is the first podcast I've actually been literally addicted to. So here is my spooky ass haunted house story. My fiance and I moved into a new house a few months ago. And at first, nothing weird or scary was happening. It was me, my fiance, my dog, Bear, who I'll attach photos, and my two guinea pigs. The only noises or strange things were our animals, and they're pretty quiet besides my unruly pigs. At the beginning of the summer, we decided we needed to plant some cute rose bushes and spruce up our front yard. Well, we planted the rose bush, left it for about a week, and then it just vanished. Totally gone. We didn't have an outdoor camera, so we weren't sure what to think, but we have since gotten one since this incident. But we're like, maybe someone took it from our yard. Maybe it made someone really mad. Maybe there's a mean neighbor. I don't know. Nothing ghostly came to mind. But I've had so many experiences at every home I've lived in, so it wouldn't be surprising. My fiance decides to replace those roses with yucca plants. But while we were doing that, we found the creepiest thing ever. Buried in the dirt was a little Cabbage Patch baby doll. I'm attaching a photo because honestly, we were terrified by it. Ever since we dug up that doll, we've been hearing little knocks and creaks, and I have not been able to sleep, even with my trazodone and melatonin mix. I also got a kitten right before this, and sometimes she just sits and stares off into the ceiling corners and makes low growling sounds. And my dog gets so spooked, he starts to become uncontrollably protective and skittish.
Okay, well, that's a trust your pet situation, especially given how many pets M has and for them all to be reacting.
Also, now look at the photo.
Let me pull it up.
It's terrifying. Imagine pulling this out of the dirt.
Oh my God.
We'll put it in the video on YouTube too.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Most days I get home before my fiance, so I'm alone with the animals, and I usually find different ways to distract myself, but there are some times where I feel like I'm being watched or someone is right behind my shoulder. I never feel threatened, just spooked. Most times when I'm with fiance, I'm not sure if he hears, sees, or feels what I do, but we both just choose to ignore it. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for being my spooky outlet. I hope you enjoyed this freaky story. I am sure I will have more updates about my haunted house. Oh, and they say, thanks for being badass spooky bitches. From M.
Well, thanks, M. Thanks for digging up haunted dolls and
but also
messaging us about them.
Sorry you had to do that.
I know. It is one of those things where it's like, if I found one, I'm not sure I would assume it was haunted, because it's one of those things where it's like the age demographic that is playing with those dolls, it could fall out of a stroller. It could be like tossed out of a backpack. It could be buried for fun by the kids, you know? So I don't think I'd be as alarmed to that. But the fact that it immediately started some activity, that's creepy. That makes me think it was buried with purpose.
Exactly. And also the fact that the rose bushes, like, there's so many reasons for like the way the rose bush could have disappeared, but it sounds like it was buried or planted in the exact same spot as where they eventually found the doll. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the doll is like, this is my ground. You can't plant pretty flowers here.
It's like practical magic. Don't they put the rose bushes over?
Wait, can I tell you? Okay, so the house that we're moving into has, when we were touring it, we were like, what's this in the backyard? And there's literally just like a weird mound.
Oh, yes.
And it looks like a grave. Like it looks like someone was buried.
A body.
It looks like a body is buried.
Because it's not, well, you sent me a picture. It's like not on the perimeter. It's smack dab in the middle of the yard.
Yeah. So I like to joke now that it is our practical magic little burial pit.
It's going to be such good Halloween decor back there.
I think year round, we're going to have like a gravestone there.
As you should. As you freaking should. Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay. I have a story also in no particular order for my readings. This is from Kim, and it is called Talking Toys. Hello. I just wrote you an email yesterday, but I was listening to your podcast this morning, and the toys started going off on their own. Sick. I remember 2 encounters from when my kids were little, and I always think that I have no stories, but then I hear something on your show, and I remember an incident. The first one happened when I still lived with my mom in her house with my son. My mom worked from 3 to 11 and I worked days, so I was there at the house alone with my son. It was a split-level home and we had a family room on the lower level. My son had a toy box down there, and in it was a fire truck that had sirens when you pushed the buttons, etc. So one night, I'm in the kitchen, I'm doing dishes, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and the sirens go off on the truck. But my son was in bed, so I knew that it wasn't him. I slowly walked down the steps, terrified because everything spooks me, and the fire truck is sitting there on top of the other toys, sirens and lights going off. I really expected to go down there and see that it was sideways or it had shifted, accidentally pressing the buttons, but nope. None of the buttons were anywhere that they could have been pushed. So I go over and I shut it off. I pick it up. I put it on the floor by itself. And not long after that, I went up to bed and I was almost asleep when it did it again. I called my mom at work and she told me it was probably the batteries that were just getting old and it was malfunctioning for that reason. I don't know, because you had to push the buttons to get it to make that noise. I don't remember there being an actual on and off button, but it was 30 years ago, so maybe there was. I was too scared to go down, and the next morning I took the batteries out, and it never happened again. This was in a house that my dad had built, so no one had ever lived in it but us. It's like my family home.
Wow.
My second story happened a few years later. We lived in a new home, and I had 2 more little girls by this time. They were probably about 4 and 2, and my daughter was in the twin bed, and the other was still in the baby bed. They had a Teletubbie doll, Poe, the red one. Aww. Dinky Winky, la la, la Dipsy, Poe. You had to push his hand in his belly to get him to talk. It was creepy as fuck. And I hated him, but my 4-year-old had begged for it. And so we did get it for her, for either her birthday or for Christmas. The doll would say different phrases, one of them being, "Hello, Poe." So I'm in bed sleeping, and over the baby monitor, I hear, "Hello, Poe." And I'm thinking my daughter probably had him in bed with her and had rolled on him or something. So I'm almost back to sleep, and I hear, "Hello, Poe." And I get up this time thinking that she is up and she's playing with the doll. So I go to their room, and I'm thinking I'm going to catch her playing with it. And that little sucker is laying in the middle of the floor all alone. Both of the girls are sleeping. It was not close to the bed where it could have fallen out. It was all the way by the closet, far from either of their beds. I have no idea if it had an on and off switch either. I was just so freaked out. So I picked Poe up. I looked at him. I pushed his hand or his belly. And the next phrase was not, "Hello, Poe."
What was it?
I pressed it again and it said another different phrase. And each time you pressed it, it was supposed to be a different phrase that was said. So I brought him out of the room. I put him by the garage door. on the washer and dryer in the laundry room. And I go back to bed. And then I hear it again. Hello, Poe. I got up and I threw that damn doll in the garage. The next morning, I snuck him into the garbage. I threw him away. My daughter asked for him a few times, and I said, I have no idea what you did with it. Totally blaming her for losing him. Well, those are my only 2 toy stories. I hope someday, as I listen further on, because I'm only on the episodes from 2022, I will hear one of these stories. Keep it spooky, ladies, and see you on the other side, Kim.
It doesn't seem negative. It is interesting that it's like been at 2 different houses and it's one toy at both of these houses, but it almost feels like it only happens once. Like it's a condensed period of time. Like the fire truck happened that one night and then not again. And the Teletubby was happening like that day and night. Well, then also was thrown out. So maybe there was no possibility for it to continue.
But it is weird too. Like the fact that each time you press Poe's hand, it was supposed to say a different phrase. But it didn't. This night, it was just, hello, Poe.
Hello, Poe. What?
Yeah, only when there was just
What did you just look at? A bird?
It was just a really loud noise outside. I think it was just like
See,
a car.
this is proof of how it happens. What?
It is freaky, though. Hey, maybe Poe was giving weird vibes and a little bit haunted because the fact that Kim's daughter didn't put up that much of a fight about Poe being missing after begging for Poe, too. Maybe she knew something was up.
Hello, Poe.
Hello, Poe.
I think my brother had the green Teletubby.
Oh.
What were their names?
Isn't it like Tinky Winky, Dipsy, Lala, and Poe?
Poe. What weird names.
Yeah, and they would drink that pink sludge from the machine. I wanted that sludge so bad.
I feel like the dream job for actors was to be like a Power Ranger. But then I feel like the people who ended up being Teletubbies, like their dream was Power Rangers, but they ended up Teletubbies.
And the Teletubby baby is now like in their 20s. Isn't that weird?
I know. There was you told me this, but she had a baby.
Yeah, the Teletubby baby had a
baby.
There was also something that kind of freaked me out about Teletubbies because
aside from everything,
like, strange just altogether. But my dog Wrinkles just never acknowledged devices. Like he was such a old man and he like refused to look at a cell phone or a screen or a computer or the television. You know, like people put shows on for dogs.
Yeah.
To soothe them. He wouldn't ever look at the TV. It's like it didn't exist unless the Teletubbies were on.
He liked the Teletubbies.
Weird. And then he'd stare at the Teletubbies. And I'm like, what kind of weird ass subliminal messaging are they giving to our pets here?
Teletubbies did have like an alien-esque vibe. So maybe Wrinkles was part alien and it was like, my people.
The motherland. I recognize those hills. I haven't had sludge in years.
Wrinkles, phone home. I miss the baby son.
Oh, the baby son. So cute.
I have one from our listener, Lo. This one has a bunch of different aspects to it. So bear with us. There are dolls involved, but there's a lot that happens. So this is from our listener, Lo. It is called My Guardian Angel, The Man with the Ducky, Twin Dolls, and Sleep Paralysis versus Aliens. Hello, my favorite ghostesses. Also, my only ghostesses, but that's besides the point.
That's a great point.
That's a great point, but besides the point. My name is Lo, and I'm a relatively new listener doing my absolute best to get caught up. This was sent a year ago now, so hopefully you're caught up and also still listening. You ladies make the worst parts of my life quite a bit better, and I'm eternally grateful. And by worst parts, I mean my commute to work and chores. Basically, everything that's adulting. I have quite a few stories to tell, and you can feel free to pick and choose what interests you and what does not. I don't really know where to start, but I feel like it makes most sense to go in chronological order. These first few stories are not things that I remember because I was too young, but stories my mom and family have told me as I grew older. The first thing you need to know about me is that I learned what death was from a very young age. My mom had me at 16 years old, and because of this, her friends played a really big role in my life. Her best friend and my godfather, I'll call him Michael, had a large family, and I was immediately welcomed into it. When I was a few years old, Michael's dad, who was my pseudo-grandfather, my god-grandfather, I'll just say grandfather for all intents and purposes, he passed away. Not long after that, my god-uncle, Clay, also passed away. The first thing my family noticed after they passed was that I would walk over to my grandfather's chair throwing my arms up like I was trying to get him to pick me up, but no one was there.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
If anyone else tried to pick me up, I would cry and use my grabby hands in direction of the chair and persist that I wanted to be picked up by grandfather.
Wow. Breaks my heart, but it's so special too. And I would feel so much warmth seeing that as a relative of the grandfather too, being like, oh my God, he's still here.
But that one is hard because it's like, are they seeing the grandfather or are they like so sad that they are trying to like bring them back, you know?
I feel like she was so young that she was seeing him.
I agree.
And not going through like
my trauma
sadness
mind
of like repeating something that used to happen a lot.
A few months after their deaths, my godfather was trying to put me in the car to go get my mother from work. This was something that happened pretty much every day and was a usual occurrence. But what was not usual is that I immediately started wailing and kicking and punching as we got close to the car. Everyone in my family will tell you that I was a relatively easy baby and toddler, but in this instance, my godfather said that I was a child from hell. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get me into the car. I even resorted to biting him at one point. It lasted for about 15 to 20 minutes when all of a sudden I stopped. Seizing the moment, he quickly got me into the car, strapped me in, and slid into the front seat. That is when my mom called. He answered the phone quickly, thinking my mom was calling to see where we were. And as he went to say where we were and that we were on our way, my mom was crying so loud, asking and begging, making sure we were okay. He assured her, don't worry, we're fine. Why are you crying? Apparently, on the way to her work, on that drive that we were about to drive, there was a 9-car pileup. If we had left,
oh my God, I just got chills
on time,
all over my body.
We would have likely been in that accident. As Michael tells it, in that moment, he felt goosebumps break out everywhere. How did I know? Why did I choose that day to throw a temper tantrum? He turned to look at me and I was fast asleep. After throwing a tantrum for 20 minutes and he finally was able to get me in the car, he turns. I was fast asleep.
Oh my God.
I'll never know for sure, but I like to believe it was my grandpa or uncle who interfered that day. And again, a later time in my life, but I'll get to that in a minute. As I previously mentioned, my mom had me at a very young age. So for a majority of the beginning of my life, it was just me and her, and it was very normal for me to sleep in bed with her. One morning, she was waking up and I threw the blankets over our heads and told her, shh. I think I was 3 at the time. And she looked at me confused. What is it? She pulled the blankets down so that she could see. And I quickly threw them back over our heads, grumbling in frustration. We have to hide. From what? My mom asked, pulling the blanket back down. She peered around the room but couldn't see anything. I said, the man out the window. The man with the duck key. My mom's eyes flew to the window, terrified, but there was no one there. So she reassured me, there's no one there, baby. I started to cry and I said, he's right there, Mama. We have to hide. Not taking any chances as a single young mom, my mom scooped me up, took me into the bathroom, called my godfather to come check out the place. And he arrived 10 minutes later, checked out the surroundings, and made sure no one was in the house or around the house. So who was this man? Why was he holding a duck? Beats me, but I never mentioned the man again, according to my mom. Fast forward 8 years. I'm now 11. I remember waking up in my bunk bed. I slept on the bottom bunk and my younger sister slept on the top. It was dark in my room, but from my peripheral vision, I could see a neon bright white light, almost fluorescent, coming from the window that was next to the head of my bed. I tried to move to see what was projecting such a strong light from outside, but I found that I couldn't move a muscle. From the corner of my vision, I could make out a gray figure with a bulbous head slowly making its way to me. I could feel fear pulsing through my body, and I tried to open my mouth and scream, but no sound came out. The next thing I know, I was waking up in my bed. It's morning, and my sister's dancing in the room as she gets ready for school. I was so confused. I asked her if she heard anything or saw anything strange the night before, but she hadn't. When I told my mom what had happened, she explained what sleep paralysis was and told me that was probably what happened. I just took her word for it at the time, but I've always been a little skeptical. I do not remember falling asleep and do not know how I would have been able to with the amount of fear that I was feeling. Also, I never had another episode of sleep paralysis ever again. My sister, Cass, gets them all the time, so it's weird that it only ever happened to me once, and I happened to see this weird gray bulbous creature and a shining light out the window when it happened.
Right. It makes me wonder, like, was the sleep paralysis triggered? Triggered? Was it triggered because of the creature? It makes me kind of think that the creature is what made it happen.
100%. And was she abducted by aliens? Maybe. My next notable paranormal incident, and this is here where toys come in, was at my father's house when I was about 14. When I was younger, I used to visit him, my stepmom, and my brother, who was 9, and my sister, age 4, for a few weeks every summer. This particular summer, my father was working nights, so it was just me, my stepmom, whose name is Christina, and the kids after 8 p.m. One night, my sister Layla and my brother Daniel had gone to bed. It was about 10 p.m., and Christina and I were in the living room chatting when we heard voices coming from Layla's room. My stepmom brushed it off and said, "It's probably just the dolls." I looked at her with big eyes and was like, "Excuse me, what do you mean?"
Yeah, you need to explain further. What dolls?
So Layla had these 2 twin dolls that were programmed to talk to one another. They were supposed to say things like, "I like peanut butter." And the other one would respond saying, "I like jelly." She goes, "Just give them a minute. They'll turn off." But after a few minutes, we could still hear them. So
Why were they on?
That's a good question. So she went to get them so that they would not wake up the kids and brought them downstairs. The dolls were quiet as she set them down on the kitchen table, and she rejoined me and sat down with me. But after a few minutes, they started speaking again. I will never forget the feeling of ice pouring down my spine when the first doll said, "I want to see her sleep." And the second responded, "Such a pretty girl."
Oh no! Oh my God! What the fuck? This is so much worse than I had imagined it would be.
Oh, "I want to watch her sleep. Such a pretty girl."
Such a pretty girl. Ew. It makes me think they're going to like cut her hair off or try to take her skin in the middle of the night.
My stepmom and I looked at each other with large eyes. She immediately got up, turned off the dolls, but stared at me in shock when she saw the batteries were already removed. My father lived in a trailer park and they had a large community dumpster that everyone threw their trash bags in. So we took the dolls to the dumpster and tossed them in. I did not sleep most of that night in fear that I would wake up and there they would be sitting on the dining room table again. When I left my room the next morning, my dad informed me that he had been the one to remove the batteries of the dolls because they had been making too much noise and he couldn't get them to stop.
That is such a dad move to experience something like that, not tell anyone. Where was the warning to everybody else involved here?
Right.
Who lived here, who would interact with the dolls. Jeez.
My dad thought that they had malfunctioned, and luckily my life is not a horror movie and the dolls did not show up again. We never saw them again.
Good.
That was not the only thing to happen in this house, though. One night, my brother was grounded and sent to his room and told, "Do not come out." And the rest of us were sitting in the living room when we saw a boy dart from the kitchen to the bathroom like he was trying not to get caught. My dad got so mad, stood up, stomped his way back to the bathroom to lecture my brother, but no one was there.
Peculiar.
The bathroom was actually across the hall from Daniel's room, so he turned as he got to the doorway to my brother's bedroom and stopped cold. There was my brother, sound asleep in his bed. This was not the last time we saw the little boy. He never seemed harmful. He would just kind of show up and be mischievous. And he also showed up a lot when there was tension in the household. He would hide in corners, move things, and just run room to room. I think he was lonely and he never hurt anyone or tried to scare us. I don't have a relationship with my father anymore, so I don't know if the little boy is still in their house or if he moved on, but I'm hoping he found peace. One more story and then I'll give you guys a break. This one, trigger warning, involves a car accident, if that is anyone. Okay, so this story took place about 2 years ago when I was 24 and ties back to the story about the 9-car pileup. I live in Michigan and winters here can get pretty bad. I had just been promoted to store manager of my own Taco Bell and I was so excited. Do you still work there?
Send Sabrina some Taco Bell.
Dream job. Oh, I'd eat Taco Bell. Gosh, it's also not a dream job because I would literally be eating Taco Bell nonstop, which also sounds amazing, but maybe problematic for my health. I was really excited, except I lived 45 minutes from my location and it had been snowing all day. So as store manager, I was not allowed to call in. So I had to get in my car, which had brand new winter tires. And I told myself, it will be okay. I'm a Michigander and I just have to take it slow. But nothing changed my gut feeling. My gut feeling was telling me I shouldn't go. I knew I had 2 options, take the back roads or take the highway. My gut said take the back roads, but I talked myself out of it, thinking the highway would be clearer with the traffic it gets, and I was sure it would be plowed. As I passed the turn I would need to make to take the back roads, I started to feel nauseous. Less than a minute passed before I hit a patch of ice. I could see a semi-truck in the other lane and knew what was about to happen. My car pitched right and started to swing all the way around in a circle, head first, right into the semi-truck.
Oh my God, that scares me so much too, because like literally the semi-trucks, now people are starting to put on what they call like angel guards to try to prevent cars from being able to slide under, because so many people die because it's literally like your head is level with getting like sliced underneath the semi.
It's also like so sad because all of Lo's instincts were like saying, don't go, don't do this.
Right. Such strong intuition since childhood.
What they say about time slowing down is very accurate. What was only seconds felt like minutes. And my first thought was, I really hope my mom is okay. I instantly accepted my fate and knew what was going to happen. I had never heard of someone walking away from a head-on collision with a semi, and it didn't matter. I only felt peace. Then, as the impact hit and my car went flying across both lanes into a ditch, I heard a voice that sounded oddly like my Uncle Clay say, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay." I didn't see anyone, but I felt a presence envelop me in what I can only describe as a warm feeling. The car stopped spinning and the world went silent. The airbag had gone off, not that I had realized it, but my glasses had been knocked into the back seat, and I immediately started taking inventory of myself. What was hurt? Was I bleeding? Could I move? Surprisingly, other than my chest hurting from the seatbelt and my hand hurting, I felt fine. The first one to the car was actually somehow a nurse. She took my vitals, told me she called 911, wrapped my hand in an ACE bandage. The second person to get to the car was the semi-driver. He got my glasses out of the back seat, handed them to me, and told me he was fine. When the ambulance and police arrived, I actually got myself out of the car and walked myself to the ambulance.
This is such a miracle.
The engine and battery to my car were literally in the middle of the road. Everyone was astonished. They had all expected to see a corpse. In fact, the medic from the ambulance told me, you should go buy a lottery ticket because he had no idea how I was okay. I walked away with just bruising in the shape of a seatbelt along my chest and stomach. I really like to think my guardian angel, my Uncle Clay, was watching over me that day because otherwise I have no explanation. I've attached some photos of my car from after the accident and the semi missing a tire, courtesy of me. Stay spooky, ladies, and thank you for doing what you do, Lo.
Lo, oh my God. I cannot even, like, so many experiences and just like across the board with types of paranormal experiences, from spirit intervention or intuition playing into saving your life.
Yeah.
Definitely the 9-car pileup was some sort of intervention or intuition. This one is wild that she was able to survive.
Especially because like everything, like her guardians, her instincts, everything was telling her like, don't go, don't do this. And that's one of those things where it's like,
yeah,
it's so tough with a job like that you're not allowed to call in or call out, which is so sad because I guarantee there are a lot of people who either are like exhausted and like need to take the day off, but like can't and they aren't allowed to because they might lose their job. Right. And things like this end up happening. And Lo was so fortunate to be protected by all of these like guardians and forces. But my gosh, terrifying.
This actually reminds me of, I'm going to tell you the name of the TikTok user so that people can just go find him because he tells his story. But his name is Matthew and his username is Matt. So MATTJSITKO. And he had a wild survivor story too with a car. Basically, like his car was like hanging over this cliff. Like I'll show you really quickly and we'll link it. But like you can see,
oh my gosh,
the cliff and his car and him being pulled out of the car.
Oh
and
my
the
gosh.
guy who pulled him out of the car literally said the first thing he asked Matthew was, "Do you believe in God?" And I don't remember what Matthew says he says, but basically like in the conversation, the guy was like, "I'm really confused because I was down below on the highway and saw you and thought someone has got to help this guy. The only way to get up to the cliff was to like basically run like a mile up the road and then go over this little bridge and like switch back up onto that part." So the guy was saying that he started running toward like away from Matthew to get to the bridge.
Yeah.
And within a split second, he was no longer running. He was at the car and was able to pull him out. So he, like the guy that rescued him was like, I don't know what happened, but like something transported me here because it should have taken me
to run a mile.
Like, basically like 10 minutes to traverse all around.
Maybe 6 minutes. Yeah.
Maximum, because it's like
and
he was
uphill.
on a road uphill, would have to go over a bridge.
Oh my gosh.
And then get on to like basically grassy terrain to get to him. So it would have been over 6 minutes because it can't be a full on sprint the entire time. But he said he started running and thought someone has got to help that guy. And boom, just like in a flash of an eye, he was right there, able to pull Matthew out. Like the fact that the rescuer was freaked out too was like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here to help you.
That is wild. I always think about Stephen King was like, because he used to, and I think he still walks every morning, but he was on a really long walk on this like back road. And I'm not sure if it was a drunk driver or if it was like a tired driver, but someone literally hit him on the side of the road and he like fell into a ditch and it's kind of middle of nowhere. Luckily, someone either saw it or saw him moments later and was able to call an ambulance. But I'm pretty sure like everyone thought he was going to die and his entire hips were basically rotated. And the fact that he can still walk and everything is a miracle.
Some of these things, there's some wild stuff that happens with people. Oh my God.
It's horrible. But I'm pretty sure that's what inspired Misery for him.
Oh, that makes total sense.
And actually, you know what it is? I'll tell you the rest of the story. So he wrote about it in his book, Stephen King on Writing, but this accident happened and he was in such a depression afterwards and like in bed and like recovering. And his wife was like, I'm sick and tired of you whining and being like depressed, that she would bring him to his like whatever he would write on and make him write every day. So kind of like Annie Wilkes in Misery.
Oh, shit. I mean, obviously he's Stephen King, so like it's going to go dark. But if this were his first novel, that would have been hilarious that his wife was like doing all this stuff to try to encourage him to get out of a funk. And then he bases basically this like sadistic murderer on her and her actions and healing him.
Well, to be fair, I did base my serial killer character after you, so.
That's true. Yes, you did.
You're welcome.
Oh, man.
Okay, thank you, my muse.
This is called The Doll After My Soul. Hello, Sabrina and Corinne. My name is Caroline, she, her, and I have one spooky story for y'all. A little background for you guys. It's 2020 and I'm house sitting at my sister's friend's parents because they all went to Hawaii with my sister and I was totally jealous. At the time, I was 17 years old and I was making money through a ton of odd jobs to save for college. The day before I was supposed to begin house sitting, the owner gave me a tour and told me about the feeding schedules of their dog and about a dozen outdoor cats. This is your future, I think.
Yes.
Just a million
But they will
cats.
all be indoor cats.
During the tour, I was beginning to feel uneasy, but everything was just as you would expect. A normal 2-story home until we got to the last room. The owner swung the last door open and to my horror, this room was filled with 200 plus dolls of every variety. 200. One in particular stood out to me, about 3 feet tall, and just stared into my soul with dark brown eyes. Immediately, I knew that there was no way I was staying the night at this house for a whole week alone. So I called up a friend and I asked her to stay with me here and saying, we could have a girls' week, and basically just begging her to come stay here. She eventually gave in and I felt a lot better about the whole situation. The next day we arrived and everything went on without a hitch until we went upstairs. There in the middle of the hallway was that 3-foot tall doll just standing there.
Nope.
Immediately, both my friend and I were really freaked out and we argued what to do with it. After arguing about it, I eventually picked up the doll and I put it into the doll room and then I shut the door behind me. Bad idea. Every night for the next week, the family dog would bark at nothing and wake us up at 3 a.m. on the dot. Me and my friend would also go out at night and come back in the dark, and there would be one burning candle in the window of the doll room that neither of us had lit.
I hate this so much.
Why are they doing rituals? This is a Stephen King novel. Like, what the fuck? This is Chucky.
Truly. Holy shit.
Things would be moved around when we got back, and sometimes we wouldn't be able to find our belongings. All of these things were weird, but both me and my friend did our best to just write it off. The last night was the worst. My friend decided to sleep downstairs while I slept upstairs in one of the bedrooms because we wanted to see if the dog would wake us up at 3 a.m. if we slept in a different room. We were both asleep when at midnight, their home alarm system went off. My friend came and she got me telling me that someone might be trying to break in. I headed downstairs, I grabbed a kitchen knife and I handed one to my friend and we began exploring the house for an intruder while my friend was behind me ready to back me up. When we couldn't find anything or anyone that might have tripped off this alarm system, we called the homeowners so that they could check their camera on the phone and see what had triggered it. The family reassured us, saying that deer or cats would sometimes be caught on camera triggering the alarm. They spent some time going through the footage and they found nothing. Me and my friend stay up the entire rest of that night watching Grey's Anatomy and being scared off our asses. So was this the doing of the creepy doll or just a faulty alarm system? I guess we'll never know. See you on the other side, Caroline.
100% the creepy doll. 100%.
100%.
I hate
the creepy
this.
doll. moved out of the room and was like literally waiting at the top of the stairs for them. Had to be moved back into the room. Somehow is lighting candles every night in some weird ritual.
I have so many questions for this family.
Me too. And also, Caroline, did you ever tell your sister? Because this was your sister's friend's family or some connection like that. Like your sister was in Hawaii with them or on vacation with them. So what does your sister know? Did you ever tell your sister? Did she ever ask the family?
Right. There's a part of me that like doesn't want to know, but I also am like so curious because this family, there's no way they are not experiencing things and there's no way they are not aware of this doll.
Yeah. They are kind of giving vibes that they wouldn't tell you though.
I know, but I almost feel like they are aware that this doll is haunted and that's why they gave her so many friends. Like they filled this room with other dolls to try to like placate her.
Yeah. Ooh, what if this is some ancestral doll that's like passed down through generations and you can't get rid of it and you just have to like continue to appease the doll? So all the dolls are a collection of like 10 generations of people trying to appease this family doll.
What's the name of the Goosebumps ventriloquist doll? It's kind of like that.
Oh, it starts with an S, doesn't it? It's like,
Marty?
I want to call him Sticky, but he's not Sticky.
Sticky. Wait, let's look it up. Slappy. So you're close.
Slappy. Slappy, Sticky. It's the same. Don't tell Slappy I said that.
Well, Slappy is getting people in sticky situations. So
yes. Dang.
Speaking of like demonic type of toys, this is a story from our listener, Lindsay, and it is called I Exorcise a Demon in My Dream, caps because I'm yelling from excitement. Dear ghostly ghostesses and pretty kitty, greetings from Florida. I don't need to explain how much I love this podcast and its community, so I'm just going to get into the juicy part of the email. Just a warning, it involves a dead squirrel.
Okay.
Background. I recently discovered a new third cousin through a DNA service. We connected and she told me about my great-grandmother, Ruth. Ruth apparently collected crystals and had skull-themed pictures and even gave this cousin her first tarot deck. I had no idea anything like that ran in my family. Turns out I stumbled into that kind of lifestyle as well. So here's what happened. I was taking a car nap. I nap daily on my work breaks, and I was dreaming of my childhood home. My sister and I were playing in the back of my dad's pickup truck, and there was a giant pile of junk intended for a garage sale on the ground next to the truck. In that pile of junk was a doll, a freakish cloth-made doll that looked absolutely possessed. Well, it was possessed. How do I know? Because it turned its entire body towards my sister and I. I looked at my sister. She looked at me. We were like, well, this is some freaky shit. We jumped down and I took this demon doll to the trash where it belonged. Well, when I picked it up, it bit me.
What?
Right on the hand and would not let go. I started screaming, trying to rip it off my hand, but it was too strong. When I finally fell free of the little bugger, it had a piece of my flesh in its mouth and had chewed it up like a paper shredder with some overdue bills. I was stunned so much that the doll felt the need to bite me again. This time, though, I was ready. I ripped it off my arm, threw it to the ground. But the doll was not yet defeated. It scurried into the house and I chased after it. I burst through the doors, determined to bring an end to this madness. I felt desperate and afraid, so I called to my great-grandmother, Ruth, please help me kill this demon. In this dream, I found a deck of tarot cards sitting on a table, neatly stacked, beckoning for me to file through them. I spread them out, and the images began to move. I knew then, the way you know things in a dream, how to defeat this demon-possessed doll. I began speaking in Latin. How do I know Latin, you ask? Well, a while ago, in real life, I felt some bad juju was heading my way, so I whipped up a Latin chant to protect my heart and soul from evil. So here I was, in my dream, chanting this Latin, when I heard something behind me. I turned to see the demon, now in squirrel form, sitting in the middle of the room. Before it had time to attack, I snatched it up and I beat it to the floor. By the way, you guys, I would never do this to a real squirrel, but it went limp, and I had finally defeated it, or so I thought. As soon as I stopped chanting my spell and turned my back, I heard a noise behind me, and I just knew that I had not finished. I spun around to face the demon. It bared its ugly teeth at me, and I snatched it up once more. I ran out to the front door as fast as I could, and finally, after every piece of it had been destroyed, it turned into a black goo and melted into the ground.
Yucky.
I woke up from my dream feeling strong and triumphant. Yeah, I was jittery and a little sick to my stomach, but man, I don't know what I ate for breakfast that morning, but damn, I defeated a demon in my dream, and that felt great. So Now I'm going to go bask in the beautiful Florida sunshine and avoid Ouija boards. Have a spoopy day, Lindsay.
Oh my God, Lindsay. Okay, well, this is just a terrifying thing to have happen in a dream, one, but two, literally on your work break. Like you're just trying to have a restful nap in your car before you have to go back into work.
What did you do during your lunch break today? Oh, just, defeated a demon or two.
Got bit by a little cloth doll, battled demons, killed a squirrel that may or may not have been a demon, or maybe the demon was tricking me into killing the squirrel.
I'm curious if Lindsay had any marks on her hand.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, freaky.
Because I do believe that this was a dream, and I don't necessarily believe it was like a real paranormal encounter, like astral plane thing. But it does make me feel like it was a message to Lindsay of you're on the right path and you have the power and you have the strength and you should continue to explore it. You have the power to defeat evil, that you can keep doing this and have no fear.
What a wild way to show her that.
You guys, we're offering a new service. It's called dream interpretation, but it's instead of like the Freudian psychological dream interpretation, we're going to take your normal average dreams and tell you what it means in a witchy way. What it is telling you about your psychological.
Why would the paranormal maybe want to give you this dream?
Exactly. What is it saying about your psychic power exploration?
Well, Lindsay, I guess battling demons just means that you have strength within you to conquer all. So there you go. A really scary dream turned beautiful.
For all your exorcism needs, call Lindsay.
Let's give Lindsay's contact information out to everyone. You didn't know that this was going to happen when you emailed us, but now it is.
Lindsay's like, I did it in a dream. I don't know if I could do it in real life.
Well, we know she wouldn't kill a squirrel in real life because
that's true.
She said that. Okay, I have one for us to end on. This is from A. Hey, ladies. I dig your podcast and wanted to tell you one of my ghost stories. When I was a kid, I had a lot of weird, ghostly shit happen to me, but as an adult, I tend to just freak myself out a lot. One of the things that happened to me went down like this. When I was 6, we moved to a new town where my dad had been offered a job at a state park. While my parents shopped for a new house to buy, we lived in a temporary house in the state park that was about 100 feet away from a cabin site where the Donner Party spent that very awful winter.
Oh.
They lost something like 30 of the 90 plus members in their party that winter in what was now my backyard. As a kid, I knew the story. We would play at the Donner State Museum Park at night, and we would experience lights turning on and off, the speakers making weird noises, and things being moved, but I think we were too young to be scared by it.
Naivete.
When you're a kid, too, I feel like you can also blame things on your imagination.
100%.
You can be like, do I want to believe this? No. It was just me. The only truly scary thing that I recall from living there was one day when I was sick in bed. At night, I blew my nose on a tissue and I tossed it to the floor of my bedroom. I remember a hand coming up over the edge of the bed and throwing that tissue back at me. That was kind of fucked up. When my parents eventually found a house to buy, it was an older place that needed some work, and it was far from historic, probably built in the 60s. Despite this being the biggest and nicest house that we had ever lived in, I just hated this house. I didn't feel welcome there.
Gut feeling.
Yeah, you got to trust your gut. But more than anything, I didn't feel like the house should be there. I remember this feeling that the house was just not supposed to be there and we weren't supposed to be there. And I became really depressed and anxious and I had trouble sleeping and I withdrew from my family when we moved into this house. And I spent most of my free time on hiking trails with our dog that were about a half mile away, sitting on a large granite rock that I could see the house from and just dreading my return to this house. My parents were/are amazing, and my brother and I had/have a great relationship. The weirdness of this place was definitely not related to any of the family dynamics, but something was wrong there, and I remember wanting to be anywhere but at that house. I loved it when our family would leave and we would go and visit my grandparents or we would go camping because it just felt so much better than being there. My godfather had given me a ceramic music box that had a heavy lid with a crack on the inside. You opened the lid, you turned the crank, and it would play Amazing Grace. And you had to open the latch. The sound. So it would play Amazing Grace. I don't know why I had to sing the title of it. You had to open the latch of the heavy ceramic lid to turn the crank for it to play. The box sat on my nightstand, but I very rarely opened it. It was really just decoration. When we moved to the previously mentioned house, I had multiple experiences, maybe 5-ish, where I would wake up late at night to my music box being wide open, playing Amazing Grace.
Oh.
I eventually packed it away in a box, and now I like to think that some nice ghosty just knew that I was freaked out by the house and wanted to play me a nice lullaby to help soothe my nerves.
Sure. That's one iteration.
Okay. I never got rid of that feeling that I had in that house, and while I didn't experience many tangible hauntings, I'm certain something did not want us there. When my dad was offered a new position at a different state park, we moved to another town in Northern California when I was 14, and I immediately felt peace and comfort in being away from that house. My entire outlook changed. My relationship with my parents, which had become a little bit strained in my adolescent years, it did improve, and I became so much more at ease. Even now, when I drive by that house, I just feel off. And I can't put my finger on why, but it still feels like nothing that's there is supposed to be there. It's as if the house is on stolen ground.
Which probably is.
Probably is, yeah. It's not the most dramatic of stories, but if you're a person who's had a feeling like the one that I got from that house, you'll relate. I wish I could understand what had happened on that ground that this house was built on, as I don't think that the feelings came from the house itself or from the previous occupants, but the actual ground. Thank you for your awesome podcast and for freaking me the fuck out every once in a while. From A.
Okay, well, A, I really think it's beautiful and great that you took the interpretation of the music box playing as a ghost trying to lull you to sleep because you were freaked out by the house. But can I just offer you a more terrifying, scary interpretation?
Mm-hmm.
It was a ghost trying to wake you up and remind you of how they don't like you there and you're unwelcomed. And what better way to creep you out than have the music box that you never open and never use play its tune?
Yeah, it feels like such a perfect movie trailer too, because I feel like all the freaky movie trailers, like they have the music box or like every song is slowed down, you know, like something like Amazing Grace. And it's just like
having
slowed down to be extra creepy. Maybe it's all played in the minor key. Like
it starts normal and then it has like something happens and it starts to like melt a little bit.
Yeah. Amazing Grace.
How sweet the death of you will be. You're welcome, everyone.
You got out of the house. You survived.
You did survive. Congratulations. And if you all have survived haunted toys and dolls, please email them to us. Email your encounters with all paranormal, all strange and unusual things. Even dreams, if you want us to interpret them, we'll help you out. Free of charge.
With no knowledge of dream interpretation at all as our backgrounds. Just random.
Keep in mind, this is truly a what if scenario where you just want like, actually, okay, I had a great idea. Let me finish this thought and then I have a great idea. But
okay.
It's truly if you just want a fun what if scenario from Corinne and I. But we have talked about making up an urban legend before, you and I, Corinne.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a creepypasta type of story. I think we should, with the help of our Patreon, create something and do like a Mad Lib scenario where it's like we basically like start a premise and it's like, okay, everyone throw out like a creepy scenario, creepy feature of like an animal or whatever it might be. And we kind of create a Frankenstein story from all of these tidbits our Patreon members give us.
Or even one of those that you do like in English class where it would like be like popcorn. You'd like keep passing the paper around.
Yeah.
And just people keep adding to the story.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a creature. Like we could just see where it goes.
It's just a creepypasta. Yeah.
It's just a creepypasta.
Give us a place. Give us names of characters. And then we like build the story.
I'm interested. Email us at twogirlsoneghost@gmail.com. Whoa. Rate and review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast. Clearly something didn't want me to say that because it literally choked the voice box in my throat.
Choked you, yeah.
Tell everybody about the podcast. You can follow us on social media.
Patreon.
You can watch us on YouTube and Patreon. Sabrina, go ahead.
If you want episodes 1 week early and ad-free, plus bonus episodes every month, plus campfire stories every Tuesday, plus a sticker and a holiday card and so much more, direct messaging access to Corinne and I, join us on Patreon. It's $5 a month and you get all of that. And it's one amazing, most haunted friend community. And shout out to our producer and editor, Jamie Ryan, who edits and produces our video and audio of all the episodes you listen to. And thank you to all of you. We love you all so very much.
And we will see you on the other side.